Before we get to our show, here is a podcast we think you're going to love.
Hey, it's Erin.
And this is Jordan.
Each week, we dig up the facts on fascinating felonies
And mesmerizing misdemeanors.
Join us as we prove that you don't have to know too much about the legal system to be crazy for a good true crime story.
Subscribe to Crime Crazy on iTunes or your favorite podcast app.
And visit us at crimecrazypodcast.com.
He doesn't even go here.
Hello and welcome
to Perhaps It's You.
My name's Liz.
My name is Samantha. This is an unofficial Unsolved Mysteries rewatch podcast that also includes dogs.
Yeah, there will be
Can't
barking
explain
in
that.
this episode, and there's nothing that can be done, and I don't want any notes about it. Hi.
Last week we had an entire podcast about, well, I was going to say dogs, but it really had little to do with dogs. We didn't get any complaints about that.
Curtis would like some pets right now.
Oh,
He's at like the perfect level of Shaggy right now, I feel like.
he's so adorable.
Oh my god.
Lenny's shag
months-
is over the top.
Yeah, okay, that's bordering on ridiculous. A couple months after Curtis's last haircut, he is the cutest.
We can all relate. You get a haircut and it's okay, but it really looks peak after like a couple weeks growing him in.
And then you're like, oh. And then, but of course, it stays like that for a day.
Yep.
And you're like, I look so fabulous.
For one day.
For one day. Okay, Curtis spent like a whole 5 minutes barking because Samantha came here, and I don't know if he was excited or just overwhelmed or what. But
We'll say excited, but I feel like he's just mad that I was in the house, which is fine.
he is not super comfortable with change. Maybe some of you can relate.
Despite the fact that I'm here every weekend.
Yeah, that's too much for him.
It's too much.
He's looking at me with this most like big puppy dog eyes, like, Liz.
The current problem is that Mac left.
Liz. Yeah, Mac's not here, so the dogs there's like a mutiny.
They're very upset.
Anyway, what? Unsolved Mysteries. So last week, we took a little break to have a pubcast. I was going to apologize about that, but I'm not because that pubcast was awesome.
People
So,
seem to enjoy the
you're-
podcast.
you're
it was
welcome.
shorter. It had very few pups in it. It had a pigeon, a pig, and a cat.
But who saw that pigeon story coming? You know?
Folks seem to have enjoyed the pigeon story. A company that makes pigeon supplements called Pigeon Vitality is following us on Instagram now. That's strange.
That's right. We've made the big time.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
Free pigeon supplements. Here we
Pigeon
come.
supplements. Let alone the fact
Pigeon
that they're called-
Vitality. Give us a call. We would love to advertise for you.
The first thing I thought of, and maybe I'm just too saturated in Alex Jones critique podcast, but it was a little tiny pigeon Alex Jones just like rolling on Pigeon Vitality, just like raging into a little microphone.
I mean, yes, that probably is a sign that you listen to too many critiques of Alex Jones.
Pigeon Vitality.
But the word
Who names-
vitality.
Yeah, that's a bizarre way to name your pigeon supplement. But
Yeah,
look,
well-
you do you, Pigeon Vitality. They have like 25,000 followers, so I'm not here to judge.
Samantha, you just talked us right out of that great sponsorship we were going to have.
Pigeon supplement.
Brought to you by Pigeon Supplement. Okay, Curtis, everything is fine.
You'll be okay, dude.
Get off my dick. Oh, okay.
Do you have any other updates?
I probably should.
I had an
As
update.
usual,
Oh.
and I don't.
Speaking of the pupcast, the pigcast, the pigeon cast, we were informed that Lulu the pig appeared in an Unsolved Mysteries segment.
That we haven't gotten to yet.
No, it's in season 11, I think. So I found it on Unsolved Wiki, which I wish I had known that it was on there because the article I read for last week was terrible. And yeah, Lulu has an Unsolved Wiki. Apparently there's an episode dedicated, or at least a segment dedicated to hero animals. But it's not till season 11, from what I can tell.
Okay, I like that as we were trying to take a break from Unsolved Mysteries, we just did more Unsolved Mysteries.
So yeah, come at me.
We can't get enough. Just soak it in. And the fact that, see, this is how we thought, you might have thought, oh, this pupcast, that's not really on brand. It turns out it's super on brand.
It is, because Unsolved Mysteries on June 4th, 1999 did an episode about animal saviors that also included a dog named Norman, who was a blind yellow lab who saved someone from drowning.
Okay, well, we're going to have to talk about that on a
This
podcast.
is incredible. Also, the Unsolved Wiki included an actual picture of Lulu. Lulu is a large pig. I have no idea how that pig went through a doggy door. Lulu was massive.
Whoa.
And I can't believe
That just
how
adds
big
more to
that
the
doggy
story.
door
Well,
was.
didn't Lulu get a cut on her belly trying to get through that door?
She did, so that might explain it. Sadly, Lulu died of a heart attack in 2003, which is exactly what she saved her owner from. Which, that was unfortunate.
How did they know she had a heart attack? Did she have like a little piggy autopsy?
I'm not sure about that. So maybe
a little piggy postmortem.
maybe she did.
Too many jelly donuts, Lulu. You gotta cut back.
Lulu's owner Joe passed away.
Just
in
kidding. Eat all the
2013.
jelly donuts you want.
Yeah, so we're not going to get to season 11 for a while, but if you are watching Unsolved Mysteries and want to...
Unsolved Mysteries is so in our blood. We can't even like escape it.
We really
It's
can't.
just like, yes.
It's just always
the
there.
pure essence of perhaps it's you.
And apparently this
Mysteries.
Lulu story was national news. It was a big deal when it happened, so...
It's the best story. I can see... You know, people are always like, oh, the news is so depressing. Like, I want more feel-good news. And it's like, well, it's not always that informative. But of course, you would want to hear this story about
a heroic pig.
The world's smartest, bravest pig. Like, of course.
R.I.P. Lulu. You did
Lulu.
good work.
There should definitely be a statue to Lulu.
Oh, for sure.
And,
it
like-
should have a little jelly donut at the base.
Yes. It should be at like a hospital that specializes in hearts.
Yeah.
For like heart specialists.
You walk in for your cardiology appointment, and you're like,
there's
why is
Lulu.
the statue of a pig
It's
here?
like, well, it saved a woman having a heart attack, and that's what we do here.
yeah, exactly.
This is our mascot.
Oh, it makes total sense.
If the world worked the way I want it to,
Truly.
which it does not at all.
Tell us about your trip to New Orleans. That's why we didn't have an episode last week, because Liz was, I'm assuming, ghost hunting.
It was incredible. It was
Escaping
so
the
great.
horrible Minnesota winter.
Yeah, I got to eat outside. And that was amazing.
Forget what that's like.
I just wandered around all day, going into like voodoo shops and seeing shit that's haunted.
Incredible.
Eating
Did you
the most
see any
amazing
ghosts?
food. No. But when we checked into our hotel, the woman at the desk was like, oh, why are you here? And my friend went to eat and see ghosts. And then she was like, oh, well, you know, it depends how friendly. Like, she like took that very seriously. And
Isn't that why everyone's there?
yeah, and she was like, oh, well, the ghosts here, from what I've heard, are very friendly, but you might not want to see all ghosts. And we were sort of like, haha. And then, but of course, like every building there is so old. So yeah, they handed us like this little history of the hotel, and it was like, oh, these, you know, this spirit has been sighted at blah blah, and we're like, oh, she like meant that very literally. The ghosts here in this hotel
Are very friendly.
are very friendly. Nobody's been.
Our ghosts are great, but next door...
Yeah. She was basically like bragging, like, well, you won't want to see all the ghosts in this town, but don't worry, you're at the right place. These ghosts are great.
You went to a cemetery?
Yes, we went to the one everyone goes to, the super old one, Lafayette #1, which now you have to be on a tour to go into because they've had problems with vandalism. So
That's too bad.
that's a little bit of a bummer because I would have liked to just hang out and take more pictures, but I also get why that's an issue because that's where Marie Laveau is buried. And at some point, someone like painted her whole tomb pink, and then they were like, "Okay, like we've put up with a lot of shenanigans over the years, but that's over the line." That's also where, so that cemetery is so old, and the crypts have to be above ground because of the sea level, but not all of it is very well maintained. Like it's supposed to be maintained by the family, so some of them have just like sunk into the earth.
Oh.
And just vanished.
Wow.
So that's how Nicolas Cage's future tomb is there. Is that he bought the like land two tombs used to be on until they sunk into the earth.
Okay, so where is Nicolas Cage going to be buried?
In there, in this like pyramid he had built for him.
Oh.
It's already there.
Oh, okay, I get. Wow. That's over the top, but I kind of respect it.
Yeah, that was great. I'm going to talk a little bit about I went on a ghost tour. I'll talk about that as my recommendation. That
Nice.
was lovely. No, everything was fantastic. Because seriously, everything is haunted.
Follow us on Instagram. I posted a few photos from Liz's trip. Specifically, there are a bunch of photos from the Voodoo Museum, which looked incredible. We just talked about voodoo on this podcast. So it was practically a work trip.
Pretty much. I should have expensed it all. We also, I think there's a photo. I walked by this building that had a for sale sign, and at the bottom it said not haunted.
Which means it's totally haunted,
And
right?
I was just, like standing in the middle of the sidewalk, and this wasn't the like most touristy area. So I'm like standing in the middle of the sidewalk taking a picture of this sign, and this guy walks by me, and to sort of like reassure him I'm not being a freak and like taking his picture, you know, I was like, that means it's haunted, right? And he like looked up and he just went, oh, definitely. Like, oh, that's for sure haunted. I was like, okay, cool.
I love that there's a place where on your for sale sign.
We saw other places for sale from the same realtor or the same like realty business that did not say not haunted.
It's not like their thing.
So that made us wonder, like, but does that mean those ones for sure are haunted? What is happening? Also, have anyone seen that Nathan For You where he gets this like, he talks to a realtor about having these like verified not haunted homes, and they like bring in a exorcist? Oh, it's so funny. That's all I could really think about. So I was like, oh, this is like a Nathan For You property where it's like, not haunted. We got
These
that succubus out of there.
Haunted. This one.
I mean, pretty much, I feel like everything is haunted, and it's
I would
great.
think that in New Orleans, if it was haunted, it would just increase the market value of the home.
I mean, I guess it depends on the spirits.
Sure,
that are there.
if they're nice, like the ones in your hotel.
Yeah.
You've got some demonic Ghost Adventures shit.
No one wants this. Oh my God, no, I can't remember her name. But if anybody has seen the American Horror Story season 3, Coven, where Kathy Bates is this horrible woman, and I cannot fucking remember her name right now, but that's a real person.
Oh.
And she murdered all these people, and she's the fucking worst. But she did really own this property in the French Quarter, and it's like considered cursed, and nobody wants it. Nicolas Cage bought it. It's also gigantic and so creepy and dead, and like everything else is like lively and lit and blah blah blah, right? Like you just see this gray building that's a block and just nothing. Like it's so creepy. But oh my God, Curtis, come on, let me tell my story. Anyway, so she owned it, and she murdered a bunch of people there and tortured them, and it's disgusting. So everyone considers it cursed, and nobody in New Orleans wants it. And eventually Nicolas Cage bought it.
What is he doing with it?
Well, he does not have it anymore. He bought it, immediately got divorced, and then the IRS showed up and told them he owes them $15 million, which he does not have. So they seized the house.
Whoa.
People take that curse like super seriously. Our tour guide, who, you know, was from there, said that if you're not supposed to walk like under the balcony, and that his grandma who raised him told him that if he ever did that or touched the house, he was never allowed to come home.
That is serious.
She was like, I'll still love you, but I will ship you off to your relatives in Atlanta.
Oh.
You will not bring that into my house.
That's savage, but you know what? You have to have rules.
Okay, and another story about it is that this tour guide was like, yeah, once we had a new tour guide, and he walked everyone under that balcony first and then went, guess what? You're all cursed. And then this guy that was a voodoo doctor fucking decked him in the jaw and knocked him out cold.
Look, he kind of had that one coming.
Yeah. He said it was a really good punch.
It must have been, yeah. Knockout.
So, I don't know. I kind of take that.
Do people go in the house? Or I suppose you can't if it's...
Okay, so it's currently owned by this, like, oil tycoon guy who bought it from the IRS, like, super cheap, considering, like, how big and nice it is. But he hasn't gone there in years.
So it's... Wow.
Because he doesn't want to. But he sends, like, guests there, like, oh, go stay in my summer house, blah, blah, blah. So the tour guide said he was once, you know, standing like across the street talking about this house, and this guy like comes out on the balcony and is like, what did you say? Because he doesn't tell people who go to stay there about it. And then they find out they're in this murder house that everybody thinks is cursed. Can you imagine?
That is cruel. You have to at least disclose.
It's like, oh, countless slaves were tortured and murdered here, and even people who were cool with slavery were like, no, this is too much.
But enjoy your stay.
Yeah, but enjoy your stay. They're definitely haunting that, and they're definitely coming for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I know. It was such a good trip. Highly recommend.
I'm so envious. It looked amazing.
We have to go to for work, clearly.
Yeah, obviously, research for the podcast requires that we go to these places.
There's definitely more cemeteries I need to see. I'm sure people are going to write in like, I can't believe you didn't do blah. And I was like, okay, I only had a few days.
Guess we have to go back next year.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to go eat more shrimp. Stop me. Oh no.
Amazing. Well, thanks for bearing with us and listening to a shorter but I think delightful episode last week.
I thought it was hilarious.
The podcast. So. I mean, we're pretty funny. So
okay,
but this week we're doing Unsolved Mysteries.
Did you know that we're stalling because we don't want to talk about this episode because this episode
was not good? But here we are back at Unsolved Mysteries. This is season 3, episode
15, and it is
not good.
So lack fucking luster.
It's pretty boring.
There's some barely remember this.
There's some okay true crime stuff, but there is a treasure which is dumb as
literally had my fingers crossed that Samantha would get the treasure.
I usually do.
I was sitting there, and the way that they introduced the episode, the order they said what mysteries they were coming, you would have gotten it, and I was like, yes, I don't want it. And then I was like,
happened?
No, I got it. But I do like that this episode starts with Robert Stack in a church, and I was like, he's bringing us the gospel.
Sure is.
The gospel of Unsolved Mysteries.
Remember that tie that we talked about in season 1 that Robert Stack wore, and people were speculating that it was just a one-off, someone handed him that tie? He wears that tie all the fucking time.
I'm guessing it's expensive. It just has the worst pattern on it.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the sort of upholstery that used to be on airplane seats.
It looks exactly like that,
where it just has it's gray and just has random shapes floating on it, and you're like, okay,
yeah, it's weird.
But it's probably fucking Armani or something. He's like, I gotta keep wearing this tie, and it's like, no, it's fucking hideous.
It's so ugly, and he wears it all the time. He's wearing it in this episode.
Get one from the Goodwill. It'll be better than that for sure. But unless that is the tie that's at the Goodwill.
I mean, would be today, but.
Okay, I have the first mystery. I don't really want to talk about it. It's an unexplained death from Spokane, Washington. This is the death of Russell Evans. And this happened on June 4th, 1989. Part of what is annoying to me about this segment is that this victim is 13 years old. And that is very easy to forget because they have a 25-year-old man playing him. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why I think it's because he was 6'3". At 13 years old.
So I guess, but 13 is so young. And they made it seem like he was running around town, getting into fights.
I was a little bit why was this kid out at midnight? But look, his parents were super chill.
I guess.
That's fine, whatever. But it is confusing because the person playing him is not 13, by any stretch of the imagination. So anyway, 1:05 a.m. the morning of June 4th, 1989, 13-year-old Russell Evans was found lying in the street after an apparent hit-and-run accident. He was discovered by Sandy Ferris and a friend of hers, and they waited for paramedics to arrive, while Russell was calling out for someone named Brian to help him.
Yeah.
Which is sort of eerie. At 1:30, he was taken to a nearby hospital where doctors tried to save his life. Unfortunately, by 9 a.m., he had died as a result of his injuries. The police ruled that he died from being struck by a car. His family doesn't believe that explanation. And there are some things that don't quite add up about it. And it mainly involves the fact that his shoes were found very far from him. I guess it's not his body yet. Found far from him. And the shoelaces?
The laces is a weird part.
Not in the shoes.
But they're very fixated on this shoe thing. But that happens when
people
you get struck by a car.
Shoes. Yeah.
It seems like a weird thing that would only happen in movies, but it's actually really true. If you get struck by a car, especially at a high speed, your shoes will fly off. Especially if you're 13 and you didn't tie your shoes or whatever. That's the thing that happened. I found, and you'll probably get into this, but the blood was weirder than the shoes.
Yeah.
That part I couldn't explain, but I don't know the anatomy of a hit and run. You know what I mean? I don't know what happens when someone gets hit by a car.
Yeah. So we get a little backstory on Russell. He was in the 8th grade. ugh, it's just so sad. He played basketball. He was super popular. They harp on that a lot. I don't really see why that matters. I guess it seems unlikely someone would want him dead. I don't know.
Sure.
We're only sad when popular people die. Got it. And on the night of June 3rd, he was hanging out in a park with his friend Aaron, and then Aaron got into an argument with another kid about his girlfriend. And the argument was about to break into a fight, and then Russell, like, stopped it. Unsolved Mysteries wants you to think this is super important, and I feel like that is just like run-of-the-mill 13-year-old life.
Yeah, it wasn't even his girlfriend.
It wasn't even. It wasn't even a fight. It was like it might turn into a fight, and then Russell like stood in between them and was like, "Hey, cool it off, whatever."
Yeah,
it's not even. He didn't hit anyone. Like
he wasn't even the one fighting, so it's weird.
Yeah, they really want you to think that maybe one of those people, first of all, is in a gang, which no 80s, 90s information about gangs is fucking accurate. Like, no. Gangs are illegal business operations. They are not just hooligans out to find unsuspecting innocent people and brutalize them. That is not...
Are you trying to tell me that if I'm driving around at night and someone flashes their headlights at me,
oh my God,
that they're not going to kill me in a gang initiation, Liz? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Growing up by Chicago, I have heard so much of this bullshit, and it is all false. And just people are just real racist, is what it comes to.
Oh, okay.
I know that's sort of a theme that comes up on this podcast a lot, but white supremacy is a hell of a drug, and it's infiltrated all aspects of our culture. Mm-hmm. So definitely this idea that, like...
Better not let those kids wear hats in school.
I told Samantha this story that I was once in Chicago. I had just gotten off work. I worked in, like, this dirty basement, packaging soap, whatever. I have my hair back and a bandana, and I'm not dressed nicely. So I get on the L train, and there's these two elderly women that I bet $1 million are from the suburbs. So I get on the train. They see me. They audibly gasp. They clutch their pocketbooks, and they, like, move on the seat so I cannot sit next to them. And I at first I was like, what the fuck? And then I realized
ladies, I'm not a blood, okay? I
realized it's because sweat. I'm wearing a bandana, and someone told them that meant that I'm in a gang, and that if they have, like, the wrong colors, I'm going to kill them. And I was just like, I'm so tired from work, and I hate you, and whatever. So anyway, I don't trust anything this episode says about gangs. I don't see any evidence that the people Russell talked to were even in a gang.
No, because they weren't.
Because they weren't. They're just 13-year-olds hanging out at a park at night, not getting into a fight. Like, they didn't
Seems suspicious to me.
Didn't even get into a fight. Okay. So they spent the rest of the night at a friend's house. Russell left around midnight. He called his father and told him that he was coming home. I don't know. Russell's parents seem real chill. You can call them at fucking midnight when you're 13. I am on the way back.
I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, okay, so whatever. That's none of my business. A few minutes later, he ran into a friend of his on the sidewalk who was the last person to see him alive, and they just, I don't know, chatted for a couple minutes. All these kids are just, like, roaming around in the middle of the night.
Yes.
Whatever. This place seems kind of cool. So they think that he was hit by an unknown vehicle. They think he was hit by an unknown vehicle. Yeah.
He was hit by an unknown vehicle.
He was hit by an unknown vehicle. Possibly a pickup truck.
Some people don't believe it, but...
As a result of the impact of the vehicle, he was separated from his shoes and landed 75 feet from where he was struck. You know, forensics backs that up, saying that he might have been hit by the back bumper, and that might be kind of why it's weird.
The back bumper?
Yeah. I don't know. That was from the forensic pathologist.
I don't even know how that would work unless they hit him and then backed over him.
Or maybe they were turning.
Oh, maybe.
And that's what hit him?
Weird. I feel like he had to have been hit and then dragged because they found blood, like, all over the street.
Yeah. Overall, the pathologist thought his injuries were consistent with an accident. However, his family, as I already mentioned, doesn't buy that. So he's less than 2 blocks away from his home, which, I don't know, it's just sad. And his shoes and shoelaces are found downhill 86 feet away. And his shoelaces are separated from his shoes. You know, he's 13. Did he have his shoelaces tied well?
Probably not.
Probably not. Who knows? And this is what Samantha was talking about. So there's 3 pools of blood found approximately 50 feet away from his body. And the family felt like this didn't make sense. I'm kind of wondering if that's just the point of impact.
Yeah, maybe he was dragged, or maybe he didn't. He seemed delirious, so he could have
Crawled a bit of a way.
He could have even maybe stumbled. You know, maybe he was able to get up. Like, I feel like there's explanations for the blood that go beyond.
I wonder if
beaten
it
with a
dripped
2x4,
off the car.
which is
Yeah.
what his dad thinks.
Oh, right.
It's terrible.
I
but-
forgot that horrible theory. So, a second pathologist was brought in and thought that he might have been in a fight prior to his death because the bruising on his back appeared inconsistent with a hit and run. So what his parents come to believe is that basically they're driving by with like a baseball bat or a 2x4 out the window, smack him with it, and then hit him with a car. Why?
I don't know.
Bruising is not a very precise science.
Right.
Like that's part of why bite mark evidence is not this end all be all that we want it to be. Is because it's hard to predict how blood pools and blah blah blah.
Yep.
Guess what? I'm not a doctor. But
I just feel like the second pathologist saying, "Oh, he may have been in a fight," which contradicted the first pathologist, was exactly what his parents were looking for
Right.
to confirm their theory that he was murdered. And it's sad.
the
but-
other weird thing is that he's calling out. This woman finds him in the street, and he's calling out like, "Brian, help me!" Like, "Brian, blah blah blah." So his parents think that his friend Brian was at the scene. That makes sense.
he apparently had a friend named Brian.
Yeah, and the woman said that she saw someone wearing a white shirt and white tennis shorts standing in the woods, kind of watching the scene, and that she tried to tell this I 100% buy. She tried to tell the police about it, and they kept telling her to move to the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I shouldn't laugh, but when people are always like, "Oh my goodness, why didn't you call the police? Why didn't you blah, blah, blah?" It's like, oh yeah, well they always listen.
They always take you seriously.
Yeah, they're always super helpful. So
And the police officer they asked about this was like, "We assumed it was just someone who came out to look at the scene."
yeah, you didn't want to like
you make assumptions now. That's how this works.
Police work.
Okay.
We thought it was just a looky-loo, and we did
mean,
0 to confirm
maybe
that.
it
and
was.
I sleep well at night.
Yeah. Maybe it was, but
You might want to ask like a couple
this
questions.
is a hit and run. The kid died. Like
You don't want any evidence
You want
for that?
to figure out who.
I mean, I see why the parents are not trusting the investigation.
Sure.
But I also sort of think it is a hit and run.
I do too. I don't think a gang of teenagers that presumably he was hanging out with his friends at the park. Like, come on. I mean, it is weird that like this Brian piece is also a little bit weird because he goes to the hospital. His parents go to the hospital, and apparently someone named Brian was calling
Yes.
and asking about him. But
And they were like, how would he know he was here? So yeah, maybe his friend Brian was with him when he was hit and he felt bad that he didn't do more.
maybe.
Apparently his father had asked Brian what he was wearing that night, and he said he was wearing white shorts and a white shirt. But then later when the police asked him about it, he said he didn't own clothes like that.
Kids lie sometimes if they think they're going to be in trouble. I don't know that essentially accusing his friend of being involved in his death somehow, like
It kind of makes me think that his friend was a witness, and that's a really horrible thing to witness, and he felt super guilty.
and maybe was traumatized himself.
Yeah, it doesn't make me think he was involved in his death. It makes him think he wasn't able to prevent it, and he felt terrible.
Right.
That
seems more likely than, yeah, his friend helped beat him to death. His parents think that they held him. There was apparently some bruising on his arms that they thought was indicative
He's
of
been hit by a car. He's going to be
hand marks.
bruised.
Yeah.
Also, I'm bruised all the fucking time. I bruise super easily. I have a gigantic bruise on my leg right now. I pretty much always do.
Yeah.
If I'm murdered tomorrow, are people going to be like, "Oh, what was this?" And Liz is clumsy, and I bumped into my bed frame yet again. That's what it is.
Well, in that segment, and I really do empathize with his parents, but his father is like throwing out like medical terms that I think he's not qualified to like.
I think he's
make these determinations.
I think in his grief, he's done a lot of research,
right?
And he feels very well informed, and maybe he is, but I kind of think that he's looking for sense in a senseless tragedy.
Yeah.
I think this is just your kid got hit by a car, and it's terrible, but there's not a bigger whatever there. I don't think there's like a conspiracy to murder a 13-year-old for slightly intervening in a non-argument, like.
And it's possible that because there's no way to track this car down. No one saw it happen. There's no evidence, whatever, that might lead you to identifying the vehicle that hit him. So that's horrible. And maybe if you think, okay, well, maybe it was his friends who we know and we can actually find, then we could get justice for our son. But
yeah,
his friends didn't kill him. I don't think.
Also, they're 13.
Yeah. Also, again, easy to forget in the segment.
Do they have access to cars? Can they drive? Like, I was like, what car? They're fucking 13. Did they take their parents' car, go commit murder, and then just put it back in the garage?
Yeah.
That seems pretty unlikely to me.
Yeah.
Like, I realize 13-year-olds do sometimes take cars to joyride around, but they also, like, don't know what they're doing.
Right.
So they, like, purposely orchestrated this vehicular manslaughter or whatever you call it, and then just, like, drove it home, put it back, washed it off, like...
Yeah.
No, they're 13 years old. They're dumbasses. They didn't pull off a perfect murder.
Yeah. I mean, it's so horrible that this happened to him, but I don't think
it's awful.
I mean, you could maybe argue that it was murder or at least manslaughter or whatever.
Yeah,
but
it is in the way they just drove away.
Right. That's unconscionable.
Or were driving recklessly. Maybe they were drunk. Maybe whatever. So, yeah, okay, that is murder, but I don't think it's an intentional...
No, and certainly he wasn't, beaten with a bat by all his friends.
For no reason.
For intervening in a not fight.
Okay, Unsolved Mysteries Wiki says that this is unresolved. In 1996, a new witness came forward claiming to have heard one of the people whom Aaron and Russell had gotten into an argument at the park confessing to killing Russell and then running him over with a car. However, despite the new witness coming forward, the police continue to insist it was a hit and run. No one has been charged. Sadly, both of Russell's parents are now deceased. My reaction to that is that kids say things to sound tough, and that doesn't mean that they're true. Yeah. And there's really no evidence to back. Just someone, trying to act... Someone bragging, oh yeah, I killed that kid. Is that terrible? Yes. Does that mean that they did it?
Does someone saying they heard someone say, I killed that kid? Like,
also, the parents, it seems like the parents were very mad. I read some other article about, like, why aren't they following up on this? I was like, because it's fucking hearsay and it's not really evidence of anything. Like, this is just a rumor.
Right.
Like, it's a sad case, but it's not particularly interesting, and I think there's just a lot of, like, blame being pointed in directions that it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, and can you imagine how bad his friends must feel?
Also, yes, that's a really good point.
Like, they were with him. He was walking, like, assuming he was walking home alone, which is what everyone thought, like... I don't know. I would feel, if I was 13, that happened to my friend, I would feel so bad.
He literally bumps into his friend like minutes beforehand. Yeah. And is like, oh, hey, I'm heading home, and then they're dead. Like, what a shock.
Yeah.
You feel immortal at that age.
And then suddenly his parents are essentially blaming all of you.
Guess what? You got a baseball bat and you hit our son with a bat and then you stole a car and then you, like...
ran him over.
It's like...
Ugh, that's just terrible.
And then they're like, well, okay, I did steal a beer one time. Like... They're 13. Oh my god.
I know.
They're just
I know, Curtis. It's horrible.
They're just not criminal. Oh my god. Masterminds.
All right.
This is terrible. This is gonna be the worst podcast we ever made. Look, Lenny's gonna take your bone if you don't get over there.
Hurry up, Curtis. Okay, I have a wanted. This is the case of Bradford Bishop of Bethesda, Maryland, who was a family annihilator and a horrible person, and this is not a great story. So, FYI. Brad Bishop of Bethesda, Maryland was a Foreign Service officer assigned to the State Department. Previously, he served in the U.S. Army as a counterintelligence operative. He was a polyglot, which means that he was fluent in 5 languages.
Whoa.
In 1976, the State Department was stingy with promotions, according to Unsolved Mysteries, and Bishop
It's a weird judgment that they've made.
Bishop did not get the promotion that he felt he had worked for. Despite reassurances from colleagues that most of them also failed to get promoted, he took it with less than typical fortitude.
Oh.
Colleagues said that he had also complained of constant fights with his wife Annette and his mother Lobelia. Both women...
Lobelia?
Yes.
I love that name.
And then a colleague comes in to find women to blame for what is about to happen by saying that both his mother and his wife nagged him for being, quote, washed up or, quote, treading water, aka going nowhere in his job.
Yeah, that's
real shitty.
It's an unsettling moment.
Yeah, I really was watching this, and it's going along, and it's going. I'm like, okay, well,
all right, family annihilator.
Yeah, this is terrible. Everything's horrible. And then this dude comes in and is like,
guess whose fault it was? His mother and his wife.
His mom was just a hard ass, and his wife nagged him all the time, and basically he felt inadequate because he couldn't get a promotion, and all his wife would tell him was how shitty of a husband. I'm like, really?
Get divorced, dude.
Yeah, he murdered his wife and their children with a hammer, and it's her fault for nagging him? He sounds like a piece of shit. She was probably justified.
Yeah.
I'm so angry about that.
It's presented without question. Yeah. And that makes it very gross.
And you know what's
Could you imagine a situation where it was like, this woman got harassed at work and blah, 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 so of course she murdered all those people? No. Never. We're just supposed to put up with all that shit and it's fine. And then, that's just the way the world is. Get used to it. But this guy, doesn't like his mom. So of course, he had to kill all those people with a hammer.
This shit still happens. It's not like you can be like, oh, well, this was a different time when Unsolved Mysteries aired this segment. This shit is still happening.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
And you think, maybe it only happens when, I don't know, lesser crimes are committed against women. No, that freaking dude in wherever who killed his wife and their 2 daughters and put them in a barrel. There's people on the internet that'll just be like, well, he complained about how mean she was to him. So that means he can murder them and their children. What?
I can't tell you how many times I'm watching Forensic Files, which is 90% men who have killed their wives, and just going divorce. It's called divorce. You don't have to kill people.
Yeah.
It's well, he didn't like this and he didn't like that, so obviously he pushed her off his balcony.
In murdering her. Yeah. This is how our fucking patriarchy reinforces. Okay, anyway, not going there.
Samantha's real mad, everyone.
Okay,
guess what? She's got feelings and things to say, and you're gonna listen.
So he was also known for wanting to put his enemies, quote, in their place. They just also said that without any explanation of what that meant.
It was something he would say a lot. That something, I can't wait to put so-and-so in their place.
Seems like he has an anger problem and thinks that he can just wield violence over people.
He thinks he's better than other people, is the impression that I got. And he doesn't like to be... I'm sure he was a huge mansplainer. And
yes.
That he didn't like to be corrected or...
He also just felt justified that things were owed to him.
Yeah.
He was like, well, obviously I should get this promotion. His colleagues are like, well, none of us got promoted because there's a budget freeze or whatever.
Yeah. First of all...
he thinks that he is justified in murdering because of that.
He's a real sack of shit.
I think you are. Okay. So
guess what? We're not fans. We're going to take a bold stance that we are not into this dude.
Yeah, so they make the assertion that it is likely the failed promotion combined with family tension that set this tragic event into motion. I think him being a huge dick is what set this into motion, but...
Okay, Curtis is being adorable right now.
He's rolling around on his back. Let's just look at Curtis for a while.
Yeah, let's just look at Curtis.
Let's not talk about...
family annihilators. Oh my
Cute
god.
dog. He's so cute. His back mustache.
He does this all the time.
He's so freaking cute. Okay. On March 1st, 1976, Bishop told his secretary he was ill and was going to see a doctor. That was also his last day of work with the State Department. Instead of reporting to a health clinic, he went home, making 3 stops along the way. One was at a gas station where he purchased and filled a gas can. The second was at the White Flint Mall, where he purchased a ball-peen hammer from a hardware store. And the third was at a bank, where he withdrew several $100s in cash. After arriving home, he bludgeoned his wife, Annette, his mom, Lobelia, and his sons, William III and Brenton. He had 3 sons, William III, Brenton, and Jeffrey.
He fucking named his son William III and yet still murdered him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's
with a hammer.
Extra appalling to me for some reason.
He killed all of them. He proceeded to take an all-night drive. So he put all the bodies into his car and drove to Columbia, North Carolina, where he dug a shallow fire pit in a dense area of woods, piled all of the bodies in it, doused them with gasoline, and set them on fire.
Think of how... This is disgusting, but just think of how horrific that is. That you've made a pit and you've thrown your entire family into it and you're burning their corpses.
After you beat them to death with a ball-peen hammer.
I don't get why he moved the bodies so far.
I think he thought they wouldn't be discovered, or maybe they couldn't be connected to him.
If they weren't by the house.
Except that he's missing and his entire family is dead. Like, okay, dude. On March 2nd,
guy's not as smart as he thinks he is.
A North Carolina forest ranger noticed the smoke and discovered the horrific scene. Then he reported his findings to the local police. 6 days later, on March 8th, a neighbor of the Bishops contacted the police, suspicious of their absence. Once inside their home, Lieutenant Joe Sargent found large amounts of blood. Investigators soon connected the 2 cases. Dental records confirmed the identity of the remains. Bishop dumped the car at a campground in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park before vanishing. Police inspected the car and found the bloodied ball-peen hammer, as well as the receipt from the hardware store for its purchase. Bishop fled the United States. Because he still possessed a State Department passport, he was able to travel much easier than civilians, as customs officers are generally more lax to those with official U.S. government passports. He has not been seen since, but sightings have been reported all over Europe, notably Belgium, England, Finland, and the Netherlands, Germany, Greece, Italy, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland.
This guy's really traveling.
Yeah. A sighting by Roy Harrell, a State Department worker, placed Bishop in Europe.
Okay, this is the worst reenactment that has been on the show yet, so including those aliens that were just made out of paper mache and like old wooden spoons or whatever.
Yep.
This is...
It's bad. So
I want Unsolved Mysteries gifs. Are you listening? I want a gif of this guy's face when he realizes he's been found out.
Oh my God.
Please.
While in the city of Sorrento, according to Roy Harrell, he was in a men's washroom when he saw a bearded, haggard man wearing a soft cotton sports coat. At a closer glance, he realized it was Bishop and confronted him. He attempted to try and get Bishop to go with him to Rome to surrender to the Italian police, but Bishop panicked and ran from Harrell. And according to Unsolved Mysteries,
he really goes like, "Oh my God, no!"
He runs and then unnecessarily grabs anything by him and throws it on the ground.
Yeah. While wearing this like coat, it's so weird, and his beard looks so fake and strange, and it is an amazing coincidence. So this guy is the last person who saw him in the U.S. before he went missing, and he just happens to bump into him in this bathroom in Italy. It's wild.
And Bishop is pretty distinctive looking, so I think, if you knew him well, you would have recognized him, and it seems like it was him based on his reaction.
When we're talking about eyewitness testimony not being reliable, I feel like I should point out that there's a difference between seeing someone for 5 seconds committing a crime and recognizing someone you know.
Yes.
So, like, if
recognizing someone you know and saying, "Hey, are you this person?" and then they freak out and
go, apparently,
I'm not going with you,
and run with their limbs just like flailing down this Italian hallway,
knocking over plants.
Oh my God. I have a brief tangent that I once had to pick someone out of a photo array because I used to work in a museum and someone's purse got stolen. And they immediately went and used their checks and credit cards to buy booze, and was just seen like on the security camera, like smiling, holding this big case of beer, right? And so when I saw that photo, I was like, oh, I know who this is. She comes to the museum all the time.
Yep.
Blah, blah, blah. So I had to go to the police station and like pick her out of a photo array, which was so exciting because it's like so law and order, even whatever. It's a stolen purse, but justice, please. I like collected evidence. I was like, oh, here's the sign-in sheet to prove she was here that day. Here's her receipt. You know, like I gave this like whole file to the police department and they like did not fucking care, right? Because it's a stolen purse. I was like, you know, just get those solve rates up. I've solved it for you. Here it is. But when I was being interviewed by her lawyer, the lawyer was trying to prove that I didn't really recognize her and I didn't really know who she was. And she was saying things like, well, what brand of sunglasses was she wearing?
What?
I was like, I don't fucking know. I don't know what brand of sunglasses my mom wears. Doesn't mean I wouldn't recognize my own mother. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's why I'm bringing it up. Like, I saw her every week.
Yes.
And also, she's smiling at the security camera. It's fucking her. Like, just look at the photo and then look at her. It's her.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find this testimony to be pretty credible, but... And also, it seems like he legitimately was traveling around with... I don't know why they couldn't just, like, freeze his passport, but maybe it was a different
Maybe
time.
he knew ways to get around that.
Yeah,
or...
possibly. Or maybe they just didn't check. You know, it does seem like
You're
they
right.
just take your word for it if you flash, which is kind of true. I mean, you flash a badge at someone and you look official.
They're like, okay. But
Yeah.
man with a strange beard, a strange fake beard. It was probably real in real life, I suppose.
So this is interesting and something that I haven't heard a lot about. He was tried in absentia of the crimes and found guilty on 5 counts of first-degree murder and other charges. His most recent stateside sighting was of him traveling with the family dog and a dark-skinned woman. I don't know.
Okay.
Apparently he took the dog. That's a dick move.
Killed the whole family, took the dog, and then just kept traveling around the world with the
I
dog?
guess. I've never really heard of anyone being tried in absentia. Have you?
I think it has to be a case like this because
Where it's pretty close, you know.
where maybe we need someone with more legal expertise to weigh in because
us how
I know
that
you're
works.
supposed to be able to like confront your accusers.
Right.
So how does that work when you're being tried in absentia? Is it because you fled and you weren't supposed to? You've like given up that right, maybe?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't really know how that works, but apparently he was found guilty, so that's something.
They're like, we have a ton of evidence against him. We just don't have him.
Yeah, so this case...
Guy, also, why didn't he just leave with the family dog and let his family live? Just go travel around Europe without them.
Because he thinks that he has the power to take someone's life because they offended him or whatever.
What a dick.
Just toxic masculinity. Okay, so this case first aired on January 9th, 1991. Bishop was also profiled on America's Most Wanted and The Hunt with John Walsh. The result is that, unfortunately, he was never found. In fall 1992, investigators located an old letter which indicated that Bishop had tried to hire someone to kill his family before he committed the crimes himself. The letter was from...
What?
The letter was from convicted bank robber Albert Kenneth Bankston, who had
He
corresponded...
was a bank robber named Bankston? Cool. That's fate.
Really?
That should have been introduced at his trial. It's like, well, what choice did he have? His last name's Bankston. He was meant to rob that bank.
However, it is unknown what other connections the two men may have had. It seemed like that was their connection. The most recent
He just
sighting...
literally wrote a letter to a dude who, first of all, robbed a bank. Doesn't sound like murder. It was like, will you kill my entire family, including children? And then the bank robber wrote back, no.
Nah, dude. I
No,
rob
dude.
banks. So
Is there a bank I could rob for you? Because my name's Bankston. But it's not
kind of my thing.
It's not.
My last name's not Murderston. Okay,
It's not Family Annihilatorston.
Find that guy.
Find Phil Family Annihilatorston. because I don't know why you think I would do this.
That's horrible. Get help. Okay,
Yeah.
so the most
I
recent...
hope he just wrote back, dude, get a divorce or just leave. If you're going to just go around Europe anyway, just fucking bail.
Yeah. The most
It's
recent...
called bailing.
sighting
Check it out.
of Bishop was on September 19th, 1994 in Basel, Switzerland by a former neighbor. On April 10th, 2014, Bishop was added to the FBI's 10 most wanted list. In October of 2014, authorities received a tip that an unidentified man killed in a hit-and-run accident in Alabama in 1981 might have been Bradford Bishop.
But he could have been in Switzerland, but he was in Alabama.
Well, authorities exhumed the man's body to do DNA testing. Although Bishop's face appeared quite similar to the face of the unidentified man, the body was confirmed not to be Bishop.
Oh, okay.
Sadly, Roy Harrell, Bishop's colleague, passed away in 2017 without ever seeing Bishop apprehended. The FBI is still following up on leads in the case. However, I found an article from 2018, June of last year, in the Wall Street Journal, that the FBI removed a long-sought fugitive, a Foreign Service officer accused of murdering his wife, mother, and 3 young children
He's
in
not
1978.
actually just accused. He's convicted of that, but okay.
Yeah, from its 10 most wanted list. William Bradford Bishop Jr. was only the 10th person to ever be removed from the 10 most wanted list since 1950 without prosecutors dropping charges or the fugitive being captured or dying. Despite removing him from the list, the FBI said it would continue to hunt for Bradford Bishop. Seems unlikely. Bishop, who was added to the list in 2014, was replaced on Wednesday by Antoine Taman Mims, an accused gang member charged with the March killings of 2 men at a house party in Benton Harbor, Michigan. The FBI said in a statement that it was replacing Mr. Bishop, who would now be 81 years old, because it no longer believes that publicity would aid in his capture. Mr. Bishop's surprise addition to the list in April 2014 drew heavy publicity that nevertheless failed to help authorities find him. A quote from the FBI said, "There have been no confirmed sightings of Bishop since his initial disappearance." The FBI said in a statement, adding that his continued presence on the 10 most wanted list is not expected to result in any additional information that would lead to his capture. And they said that it would be more helpful for the FBI to give the spot to a dangerous fugitive that remains a danger to the public. So
That makes sense, actually.
No longer on the 10 most wanted list, but they haven't closed the case or anything. Possibly he has died by now, hopefully by falling in a well. I don't know.
Yeah, I hope he choked on some fondue in Europe and...
It's so unfortunate that he just got away and was able to continue to live his life after killing his entire family.
Yeah.
Including his 3 young sons. And then he just got to go on and live
What a sack of shit.
hobnobbing across Europe, I assume. That's just horrible.
How did he have money to do that?
Don't know. Maybe he was
Weird.
able to find work. I don't know.
Yeah. Awful.
Hopefully he, I don't know, fell out of a plane.
Yeah.
We can only hope.
That he's the one person that was walking down the street and a piano fell on him.
If only.
Yeah. Something that happens in like cartoons, but I don't know if it really happens in real life.
Probably not, but hopefully it happened to this guy.
Yeah. He's smashed up. Okay, goddamn. I don't want to talk about this treasure.
Treasure! This is... Unsolved Mysteries keeps profiling these, like, I don't know, old-timey treasure segments.
Yeah, this segment is problematic.
Yeah.
Be prepared if you want to watch it for some depictions of Indians you're not gonna like so much.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't...
I'd really recommend just skipping this whole episode.
Yeah, why would
but
you fucking watch
I
this
don't
at
know
all?
why.
Yeah, there's depictions of the Apache tribe that... I don't even
Could
know.
have done without.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about it. It's just dumb and unnecessary. This is a treasure segment, so we get casual stack, because that's how you know we're going to be in the outdoors talking about some treasure. And he just like waxes poetic about how everyone wants treasure and the never-ending quest to strike it rich, and I don't...
Raise your hand if you want treasure.
Yeah.
Oh, 0 hands went up in this room.
Oh, yeah. It's like...
I guess I want a treasure, but
yeah.
I don't want to go on a never-ending quest to find it.
No, goddamn no. And I hate the way this segment is edited. I hate everything about it. I hate this like down home music that starts playing immediately and is like
throughout this whole episode there's weird
loud.
music. In the reenactment in my last segment, I forgot to mention this, but they show the reenactor who played Bishop like shopping in the hardware store, and there's this like bouncy like kind of like a jig playing in the background, and I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah.
This is a strange choice.
I wrote down the pace of the segment is too fast. Like I could like they just like jump in. Like, guess what? There was this treasure here. Like, I don't know. I can't even explain it. It's just like very badly done. So this is either referred to as Adam's treasure or Adam's lost diggings, which something. Yeah, see how much that upsets Curtis? Does that sound like a treasure to you? Diggings? Adam's lost diggings? Or does it sound like some sort of cat litter?
Definitely the latter.
Like, I don't want to go find Adam's lost diggings, whatever the fuck that is.
No, let
that stay lost. Please. Please. According to Unsolved Mysteries Wiki, Adam's treasure is described as a gold mine of uncertain value.
Super uncertain.
Right. This is sort of near Tucson, Arizona, but of course the location is unknown. And that since 1864, treasure hunters have been searching for the mysterious Adam's treasure. And one of those people was this railroad man named... Oh, God, I'm getting ahead of myself. I hate this so much.
You could do it. You could do it.
Okay.
Think of the sushi.
You're right. Today is the best day of the year. Samantha and I are doing Galentine sushi after this.
So excited. I'm also so hungry. It's all you can eat sushi, so I
haven't had anything to eat
one Girl
today.
Scout cookie for breakfast, and I'm starving.
We just go and we pick out an all you can eat sushi. Samantha orders like 20 rolls at once. It's the sexiest thing you've ever seen.
I eat at this restaurant a lot.
The server comes over and Samantha's like, we'll take 5 of these. She just like lists off this thing and I'm just like, Samantha, I love you. And then we get like green tea ice cream. And then in our food comas, we wander over to Home Goods and smell all the candles and buy stuff we don't need. And it's the fucking best.
It's the best.
Also, we give each other galentines. Oh my God. I love everything about it.
Tell the people what your galentines are for all 10 of us.
So... it's a certain kind of water that we talk about on this podcast, and they should fucking sponsor us because I feel like we bring it up every episode. Guess what's the best thing in the world? It rhymes with molar. I'm not going to say it. I want money.
Or at least some free water.
Because I got strawberry watermelon, and it's so good.
I'm so excited.
But Samantha, because I care about you, you're getting hibiscus cloudberry.
Yeah, it's my favorite. So excited.
Anyway, I gotta focus.
Okay,
so I can
treasure.
get to sushi.
Treasure. We gotta get through this.
Okay, so there was a man who was known only as Adams, which is how you know this story is way legit. And there's no other information about him, so don't fucking ask. In September of 1864, Adams and another man, which I guess we have even less information about that, were found near death and were brought to Fort Apache.
Adam and Chad's lots of diggings.
While recuperating, Adam told the army surgeon that a few weeks earlier, he and 20 of his miners were in a cabin that they had been led to by this guide called, like, what was his name?
I don't remember.
Something. I don't know. Look, I don't know. And he had promised to take them into a gold mine in exchange for 2 horses, a saddle, and 2 $50 gold pieces, and a bandana.
What? Demand more.
Bandana?
Value your gold mine a little higher. A bandana.
I don't understand why
he was also in a gang.
Why did he
was a
want
blood.
to lead them to a gold mine in exchange for gold? Just like keep all the gold.
Yeah. 1 horse, a bandana, and a fucking...
2 horses.
Oh, excuse me.
A saddle. Only 1 saddle? You got 2 horses, guy. Think bigger. But why does he want 50 gold pieces when he knows where all this gold is? And okay. Now, anytime I demand anything, I'm going to say it at the end. And a bandana. And they'll be like, Liz, those are like $1 at the craft store. I'll be like, yeah, well, I want a better one. Like a nice bandana, okay?
Yeah.
Put some rhinestones on it. Okay, so they this is what is sucks about this segment is they just like jump into that. It's like, oh, and they brought him to the zigzag cannon and
Canyon.
fucking kill me to this zigzag canyon where you get to the rocks and it looks like there's nothing there, and then the guys like threaten the guide. Like, there better be something here. We're going to take your bandana away. And he's like, no, like, behind this, you, like, go into this little alcove, and there's a waterfall. And at the bottom of the waterfall, there was just all this gold in the water. Just there. Why did that guy not just take it? Why did he lead people to it in exchange
if this
for
had
gold?
been real, he would have. This is just this is just old-timey Native American racism. We're like, whoa, he agreed to give us this mine for 2 horses.
And there's someone
and a
explaining
fucking
the
arrow.
Gold meant something to the white man, but not to the native people.
Exactly.
And
if these people understand that
fucking bullshit.
gold is worth something to you, they're not going to be like, oh, give me a bandana and I will show you the riches of America. Like,
Also,
come on.
if you understand that it would be, even if you don't want gold, because you're like, this is just shiny metal and really has no value that except what you've placed on it. So give it to them to like go away or something.
Or you would
Like-
use it to continue to buy more shit from that. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's stupid. The implication is that the Apache are dumb, basically.
Yeah.
So Adams and his men agree to share the gold equally, which we're supposed to be impressed by, even though they're like going and taking it.
Yeah.
So they set up the camp and they're prospecting, and then a few days later, supposedly the Apache chief comes and they have to like work out this deal because they're on Apache land. Which I think we're supposed to think, oh, they should be able to take whatever they want. Why? It's not theirs.
Because they're white and they put their foot on it.
They're just supposed to be able to wander around taking whatever they want. How dare anyone say, hey, man, not cool. So supposedly the deal he made with the chief was that they could keep whatever they found below the waterfall, but they weren't supposed to go above the waterfall. But then, of course, immediately this white guy does. Like, within seconds. Because supposedly his horse, he chases his horse, but then he finds a gold thing as large as a hen's egg. I hate this so much. So then, of course, the men keep wanting to go above the waterfall, even though that's not the deal that they made. So they keep going there. Yeah, I agree, Curtis. It's really shitty. So they keep going above the waterfall, and then at some point Adams comes back and all of his men have been killed because they didn't follow the deal. And I was kind of like, yeah. All right.
Seems fair.
You knew what was going to happen. Was that not clear to you? Fictional story full of fictional characters. And then you just see like Adams. You just see Adams like peering over this. And that's the end of this episode. I rated it 0 stars. Okay. So you see Adams peering over this rock, and then he's just like, oh shit, they're all dead. I gotta go. And that's actually my favorite part. That he, like, does not care that all of these men have been murdered. Basically, he was like, and his friend is like, oh, I think I can get a shot off. And he's like, don't bother.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here. You're only gonna make it worse, which is true. Curtis agrees. Curtis is tired of the blatant racism on this show.
Curtis, I agree. Same.
Yeah, same
Curtis.
Curtis. The music in this is fucking terrible. It's like half hoedown music, half like wind flute things.
Yeah, and the moral of the story is this treasure doesn't exist. Never existed, and no one's ever going to find it.
What else was I supposed to say about this? So basically, people think that people think that because men were going above the waterfall like they weren't supposed to, they were hiding gold from Adams and burying it in a coffee can. What is that based on? Adams wouldn't even know that if they were hiding it from him. So, fuck me. God damn it. So yeah, people have been trying to find this zigzag canyon because supposedly it's worth $1.5 million. Okay. And then at some point in the 1920s, a railroad man named John Mitchell searched for this treasure and was supposedly unsuccessful, but did write down everything about his searches. And then in the 80s, we see these 2 treasure hunters named Ron and Mick. which just seems appropriate, that have been searching for the treasure. And then we see them like find like part of a railroad, like, what do you call that? The metal part of a railroad track or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, because John Mitchell was a railroad man. And I was like, you think because someone has made their fortune in a railroad, they just carry around the pieces of metal from tracks and just leave them places like fucking Hansel and Gretel breadcrumbs? Why would he have that with him? Just because he owned a railroad?
Don't know.
He probably never touched one of those things in his life. He was just a rich guy. It's like, oh, see, we know this was the right place. John Mitchell was here. He was a railroad guy. And I went, fuck you. That was my reaction. So they thought they had found several landmarks based on the fact they were looking at old maps and names of rivers have changed over the years, blah, blah, blah. So he thought that Adams Canyon was Eagle Creek near Clifton, Arizona. And then that's where they found this, like, a gold, whatever that thing, the pan you do in the water when you're looking for gold for some reason.
Aren't those just everywhere? Wasn't everyone panning for gold? It means nothing.
It means nothing. What Unsolved Mysteries fails to mention is that a lot of these locations where they think the treasure is tribal land. So that's a fucking sovereign nation, and chances are you don't get to just wander around taking shit like Adams thought he was entitled to. So, because when I was looking, there's a Wikipedia about this article about this too. That's what's called Lost Adams Diggings, the most disgusting name for a treasure ever. I can't really tell you why. It's just not appealing. But it's like, oh, by the way, you can't really go confirm if these locations are true or not because you're not really supposed to be there just digging around taking shit. It's not yours. But that's the whole problem with treasure hunting. It's all taking shit that's not yours.
Yeah.
So unless that belonged to like an evil oil baron, leave it alone.
Yeah.
I have more information about this and I don't even want to read it because I'm just so
15
bitter.
minutes. We should just roll on through.
Okay.
How do you want to rate this episode?
I think it gets thumbs down on everything and 1 star.
Yeah, there's no really.
Honestly,
there was no good fashion. I'm going to use this loosely, but the special effects makeup in the first segment was awful. The bruises they put on that child actor's face were just like perfect circles.
Oh, is that what that was supposed to be?
They were supposed to be bruises, yeah. Because
Oh.
he was allegedly beat up before. They were just like perfect symmetrical circles on his cheeks.
I didn't even get. I was like, "What is that?" I forgot. But then at the time, I was like, "What the? Is he a mime?"
I don't know who thought that was a good idea.
Oh, my closest thing to an MVM. There is not really a good mustache in this episode. The closest one I had was in the first segment. Let me fucking find it. I'm sorry, this is so off the rails, everyone.
Was it his father?
Yes.
He had it had a nice shape to it.
So he had. Usually, I would not consider a mustache that goes into a beard a mustache. I feel like that's just all beard. But in this case, the mustache is defined separately from the beard. Like, it's like he has a mustache and then a beard.
It curls up on the side.
Because he's shaving down the cheeks of the beard and then, curling the mustache is like a separate.
It was sort
life
of a work of art.
I called it the water buffalo. Mac called it the late Orson Welles. So that should give you an idea what it looks like.
What it kind of looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't particularly find the reenactments to be great. There was
Actually, none of this
problematic
stuff-
depictions of Native Americans in the third one, and just thumbs down all around.
I guess it is mysterious because none of this shit is solved, but I also don't care.
No, not really.
So I'm just thinking of that thing in Gladiator where Joaquin Phoenix is, putting out his thumb. And then he's like, no, thumbs down. That's me right now.
Yeah, I give this like a 2 out of 5 Robert Stacks, maybe.
I give it a 1. I honestly don't like it.
Not good. I wouldn't recommend watching it.
Particularly because of the treasure segment. I think the
it.
treasure segment is bad for every reason I bitched about it more. Mm-hmm. It's just awful.
All right, I'm dying to hear your recommendation.
Okay, I basically already did my recommendation, but when I was in New Orleans, I took 2 tours. I took a cemetery tour and I took a ghost and vampire tour. Ooh. And both of those were from French Quarter Phantoms, and I highly recommend it. They were super good. It was very affordable. It's like very professional, well done. The group size was good. Like, if a lot of people are interested in that day, they hire multiple guides. And it was just like...
That's always really nice.
Yeah. And I went with a friend of mine, and she paid me back, like, after the... I just booked, like, all the tours for both of us, and then she paid me back after, and she was, like, shocked that... She was like, oh, I thought they were so good. I was really expecting it to be more. So...
Nice.
It seems like a good value. The cemetery tour I took was just going to Lafayette No. 1 and walking around and learning some of the history of that. And then I thought the Ghost and Vampire tour was essentially going to be a ghost tour. And then they would just like slap on one mention of a vampire to like bring in those fans. But there was actually 2 vampire locations that we went to, and the stories were really, really good. So if that's something that you're interested in, I highly recommend that. I thought the tour guides really knew their shit, and it was very affordable and enjoyable. So we went on this like walking ghost tour in Anoka, Minnesota, which was the most wholesome thing ever. And one story was really like a kid held a cookie behind their back and a ghost ate it, right? We're at the New Orleans ghost tour, and they bring us to this building, and they were like, inside this building, 20 of the most beautiful men and women the city had ever seen were dismembered, and their limbs were stacked floor to ceiling in front of the door in what was described as a human salad. So that's like the contrast. They're fucking good, crazy stories.
Wow.
I don't feel like I should give them all away, but they were really awesome.
Incredible.
They each one, like, I honestly, my jaw was dropping at some of this shit. And the ghost tour guide was clearly a skeptic, but he would give you all the historical, like, provable information first. Like, we know at this location, like, this murder happened or whatever. And then at the end would be like, okay, what cannot be explained is these sightings or the fact that this apartment's had, like, 30 break-ins in the past year or, you know, like, whatever. He would leave that sort of paranormal aspect then and be like, all right, I don't know how to explain such and such. And I thought that was a good approach.
That's a great way to do it.
Yeah. So, French Quarter Phantoms, if you're ever in New Orleans, thumbs up for me.
Nice. So Liz's trip to New Orleans reminded me that I just finished binge watching this show on Amazon that I love so much. And this is not the show for Liz, and it's not a show for the squeamish.
Oh, yeah.
Or people who don't like medical shows, because it's a show called Night Watch. And it's like it's kind of, there's a lot of shows that followed in cops' footsteps where they like follow around police. Sure. But this show also follows around the ambulance drivers, the paramedics, and the EMS people who work for New Orleans. And the reason I'm saying it's not for Liz is because it can be pretty graphic. But what I loved more than the interesting cases that they saw were just the characters. They follow the same, like, it changes a bit. There's I want to say 3 seasons, and it changes a bit like from season to season, but they have sort of the same crews that always work together, that have such good chemistry, that are hilarious, that are so nice. And also it's in New Orleans, and I've never
Everybody in New Orleans is super nice.
That's what I was gonna say. I've never been to New Orleans,
nice.
But they could literally be caring for someone who's been shot and is like, either half their arm is hanging off, and they're just chipper and like, thanks for coming to pick me up. Like, it's incredible. And people always talk about Minnesota nice, which I'm starting to believe is like an ironic way of talking about people in Minnesota.
There's 2 ways to... People in Minnesota are, in my opinion, genuinely very nice. Yes. But there's also this idea of Minnesota nice, which is a more like passive-aggressive politeness.
Right. But it's from watching this one show, which I feel like if you're seeing people that are at like the worst moment of their life, and they're like, that gives you a good idea of like the culture. And also a theme of the show is the ambulance drivers that they follow saying, this is how New Orleans is. Like, we're nice. We help each other. We will go out of our way. Like, there's a few cases where like they have help from like a good Samaritan that doesn't need to like stop and like assist these people, but they do. And like, I don't know, it's really, not only is it interesting because they see a lot of shit, it follows only the ambulance drivers that are working overnights. So they see crazy shit.
Yeah,
they follow them during Mardi Gras, which is wild. I don't care they do cut back and forth between the ambulance drivers and the police. I don't care for the police because I don't think over policing of black neighborhoods needs to be entertainment. That's just my opinion. But
I kind of think that's fact.
But so I don't care as much for the, following the police, but I really, really love the ambulance segments. And the only unfortunate thing is that there's 3 seasons, and Travis and I binge watched them. And then there was a 4th season you had to pay for, so that 3 are free. And we bought it only to be disappointed to find out that I think they moved to Miami, somewhere in Florida.
It's a bait and switch.
Well, this is what happened. Spoiler. So New Orleans had, I think it's A&E. What? First 48. What channel is that on? Is it A&E?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
So the city of New Orleans had this contract with A&E where they produced this show, The Night Watch, and they also produced the First 48. And apparently there was a scandal surrounding the First 48 in which the producers of that show were accused of basically screwing up a triple homicide investigation. I don't know the details of it, but they apparently messed that investigation up, and I think perhaps they didn't get the murder. I'm not really sure the details, like I said.
Oh my
God. Because of that, I think the city cut off their ability to work with any of the police. And so I think the 3rd season of Night Watch has much more of the ambulance drivers in it for that reason. There was still some police that I think segments that I think were like carryover that maybe they hadn't published or whatever. But then after that 3rd season, apparently they cut off they just ended their contract with A&E because of this incident. And don't fuck up a triple murder investigation.
I didn't think it was interesting that even the police department in the French Quarter sold t-shirts.
But I really, really enjoy watching these ambulance drivers. They're really cool people. They have really good chemistry. That's what really makes the show. Also, there's just really interesting cases, and I enjoy watching that. Like, I just started on an unrelated note, I just started rewatching ER, which I've been saying I was going to do forever.
Oh yeah, good for you.
Thoroughly enjoying it. If you follow us on Instagram, you've probably seen in my story that I was Instagram storying about it, and it's more melodramatic than I remember.
Well, you're at a different point in your life.
I forgot that the
TV writing has improved significantly.
I forgot that babyface George Clooney in the 1st season pretty much spends every episode just sexually harassing Nurse Carol. So
yeah, but that used to be fine.
I guess
that used to be flirty fun in the good old days, the 90s. When you could just harass people when they were trying to do their job of saving lives.
Yeah.
Anyway. Be like, hey, you're looking real hot today. I'm George Clooney. Anyway. Oh my God. I feel like this episode was a wreck, and I blame my dogs, and I'm so sorry.
You know what? Listen, we're podcasting in a house right now. There's dogs here.
Everyone, we really appreciate you listening. I hope you stay with us. So we're on the social medias.
Perhaps It's You. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Give us a follow. Give us a like. We'd really appreciate it.
Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, iTunes. If you would like to send us your paranormal story.
We have had a small influx in paranormal stories emailed to us lately.
We'll
haven't read any of them.
For the end of the season.
We don't even open them. So if you haven't gotten a response, please don't be offended. Also, I don't check our email as often as I should. Someone last week sent us a delightful email. They live in a polar paradise. Told us all about what it's like to go to the grocery store and just have aisles dedicated to every flavor of polar water. It was delightful. They included a photo. I loved it. And I saw that email like 6 days after they sent it. I always feel really bad, but
we've got other stuff going on.
If you haven't gotten a response to us specifically surrounding spooky stories, it's because I don't even want to open them and be spoiled. But keep sending them. We see them. We flag them. We will read them in our season finale.
It occurs to me, Johnny, you sent us some amazing stories about your vortex of a ghost house, and you said you had more. So, Johnny, if you're listening, we would like those more stories, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so you could email those to perhapsitsyouPodcast@gmail.com, or there is a form on our website, perhapsitsyou.com.
Yeah, and you can subscribe to our Patreon, and you will get instant access to 14 episodes.
It's such a good deal now.
Yeah.
You really should steal that $1 from your mom and give it to us.
Yeah, and we have 3 tiers. So if you steal a couple dollars from your mom, you can get a coloring sheet every month. Thank you to everyone who has tagged us in their coloring sheet photos.
They're so cute.
You're doing a great job.
This month is going to be Hero Dog Mustache of the French Revolution.
Yeah, I'm going to color that one. I cannot wait.
And I think for March, maybe Porpoise of Justice?
Yes. So
I
subscribe
think
to our Patreon if you want access to that. And yeah, that's pretty much.
That's so it. All
all
right.
I got.
We love ya. Go solve some mysteries, bitches.
Bye.
Bye. There's no lost Adams diggings.